with big potential. Then Brittany Murphy died young. Well, now a new HBO Max documentary is looking into the star's troubled final years.
She was Hollywood's quirky princess, until a December morning when Brittany Murphy left her hillside mansion on a stretcher, never to return. The coroner said pneumonia, but Brittany had spent weeks whispering about cameras, poison, and being watched. Today, that fear is back in the headlines. Ashton Kutcher is reportedly ready to hand federal investigators proof that his one-time party ally Diddy holds the missing piece. 2 sudden deaths, twin autopsies, and rumors of blackmail-filled Freakoff nights collide in a case colder than winter air, and hidden recordings waiting to surface, evidence nobody expected. Brittany Murphy's final morning began with a frantic call from her mother, the kind of shaky-voiced 911 plea that Hollywood gossip sites replayed for weeks. Paramedics found Brittany unconscious on the bathroom floor, rushed her to Cedars-Sinai, and pronounced her gone at just 32. The coroner's press release framed it as a tragic but straightforward loss: severe pneumonia complicated by anemia and multiple drug intoxication.
Brittany, please come back!
Most outlets moved on, but the details never sat right with friends or fans. Why had Brittany's husband, screenwriter Simon Monjack, fought so hard to block an autopsy if all she'd taken were over-the-counter cold medicines? Why did the coroner refuse, for months, to list what substances were actually in her system? Even stranger, Kim Porter, Diddy's ex and mother of 3 of his children, would die 9 years later from the exact same form of pneumonia after privately confessing fear for her life. 2 vibrant women, both whispering about threats, both felled by an illness almost unheard of in the healthy. Cut to 2025. Federal investigators reopen Brittany's file while Diddy faces trafficking and racketeering charges, and suddenly that old official story feels more fragile than ever. Autopsy summaries are reread, toxicology omissions re-examined, and armchair detectives notice how many people close to Brittany had stakes in keeping deeper questions buried. If the first report was true, why does every new revelation make it sound less like a medical tragedy and more like the prologue to something much darker?
She's a Scorpio. What else do you need to know?
I'm a double Scorpio.
Double Scorpio.
She evidently collapsed in the bathroom.
Long before she collapsed, Brittany had been telling anyone who would listen that someone wanted her gone. She ordered fingerprint locks on bedroom doors, installed cameras throughout the Hollywood Hills house, and stopped eating food she hadn't prepared herself. Friends say she would sit at dinner, eyes flicking to windows as if expecting a lens to slide into view. Even bottled water felt suspect. "They're watching," she whispered, though she never spelled out who they were. When coughs set in during early December, Brittany refused hospital care, convinced a clinic visit would make her an easier target. Monjack and Brittany's mother, Sharon, told reporters she was simply anxious and exhausted. Yet the moment Brittany died, both adults floated a new explanation: a mysterious toxic mold infestation, then blocked city inspectors from testing the house. Within weeks, they abandoned the mold story entirely, leaving neighbors bewildered. The contradiction was glaring. If mold killed Brittany, wouldn't you want proof to protect yourself? Pathologist Dr. Richard Shepard later dismissed the idea outright. No fungal spores in Brittany's lungs, no signs in her bloodstream. All that remained was her persistent dread of poisoning. Whether paranoia or prescience, that fear kept her in self-imposed isolation that winter. It also left a paper trail of frantic texts and voicemails begging friends to believe her. Those messages, now resurfacing in federal hands, raise an unsettling possibility. Brittany wasn't spiraling. She was signaling, and the people closest to her treated the warning like background noise until it was too late.
During a little dip she was having, he came along. And I think that's where her judgment was muddled and she became prey.
Simon said that he was the largest collector of Vermeer, dated Elle Macpherson and Madonna. He said that he had been dying from terminal brain cancer.
Grief never sat quietly with Angelo Bertolotti, Brittany's estranged father. In 2013, he sent strands of her hair to an independent lab, unwilling to accept pneumonia as the final word. The results jolted everyone. Alarmingly high levels of antimony and barium, metals often found in rat poison and certain insecticides. Toxicologists said the amount suggested long-term exposure, not a single accident. Angelo went public, declaring his daughter was murdered, and demanded Los Angeles reopen the case. Officials shrugged. They hadn't tested for heavy metals because no one had requested it during the original autopsy. Critics pointed out that someone had. Brittany herself, when she told friends she feared poisoning, but her words were dismissed as stress. Angelo's findings didn't convince every expert, yet they cracked the door for re-examination. Why did county examiners omit heavy metal screening, a routine step in unexplained deaths? Why did they downplay Brittany's anemia, a classic symptom of chronic toxin exposure? And why, as FBI interest in Diddy's alleged blackmail parties grows, are agents now revisiting that third-party hair test with fresh eyes? Prosecutors rarely hinge a case on 10-year-old samples, but the metal story reshapes Brittany's timeline. Symptoms of weakness, shortness of breath, and cognitive fog match antimony poisoning almost verbatim. If someone administered low doses over weeks, pneumonia could mask the true cause. Angelo believed his daughter's biggest misstep was trusting the wrong circle. A decade later, investigators are treating his conspiracy as a potential breadcrumb instead of a grieving father's fantasy.
And that he had bought an experimental treatment derived from the fins of sharks. Every single word out of his mouth was a lie.
We all were scared and freaked out. Like, who was this guy?
Once they got married, they were holed up in that house 24/7.
Nobody got close to her.
Last one, guys.
When Brittany met Ashton Kutcher on the set of Just Married, tabloids framed their 5-month romance as Hollywood fluff. Yet insiders claim the chemistry was real, matching rings, whispered engagement chatter, evenings at Diddy's famed white parties. The breakup came fast and messy. Ashton pivoted to Demi Moore, a guest list regular at those same after-hours gatherings where secrecy trumped smartphones. Publicly, Ashton brushed off Brittany as a great friend, but privately, mutual pals say guilt gnawed at him. Years later on Hot Ones, he called Diddy impossible to prank, a quirky anecdote that hinted at deeper respect, maybe fear. Fast forward to Diddy's March 2025 arrest on human trafficking charges, and rumor mills boom, Ashton is cooperating, allegedly offering texts, photos, and flight logs that place him and Diddy at private estates where privacy meant leverage. Sources insist Kutcher's tech investments gave him a habit of archiving data that could corroborate claims Brittany made before her death. If true, Ashton isn't just a witness, he's a thread connecting Brittany's paranoia to Diddy's legal maze. Critics argue Ashton's leak is image control, to distance himself before prosecutors widen the net. Supporters say he's finally righting an old wrong. Either way, one question stalks every headline. Did Brittany confide in Ashton about what she saw? And is that the evidence he's now ready to unload? The timing suggests more than coincidence. It feels like a reckoning years in the making.
Fire Department 97, what's the address of the emergency?
1895 Rising Glen Road.
What's the phone number you're calling from? Tell me exactly what happened.
Oh, somebody's passed out.
Whispers of Diddy's invitation-only freak-offs have circulated for decades. Sprawling mansions stripped of phones, staffed with off-duty security, overflowing with cash and anything else guests desired. Former attendees describe bowls of electronics locked away at the door, cameras hidden in vents, and non-disclosure agreements thicker than a screenplay. Prosecutors allege the parties doubled as compromat factories, record a superstar in a compromising scene, store the footage, wield influence later. Kim Porter reportedly kept notebooks on the operation. Her planned memoir vanished after her pneumonia death. Now, Brittany Murphy's name slides onto the same timeline. Anonymous sources claim Brittany stumbled onto a USB drive containing short, time-stamped clips from one of these nights, faces blurred but voices identifiable. She supposedly told friends, "If this leaks, careers end." Weeks later, she was gone. The heavy metal toxicology, Ashton's newfound conscience, and Kim's eerily similar demise stitched together a theory. Women who learn too much become liabilities. Prosecutors haven't confirmed the drive exists, yet agents raided Diddy's Miami mansion searching for encrypted storage devices linked to blackmail. If Brittany's discovery tied Ashton, Diddy, and powerful studio moguls together, motive shifts from rumor to risk management. Skeptics ask why evidence hasn't surfaced. Supporters argue it's in a sealed federal vault. Either possibility slams home the same point: Brittany's death may rest at the intersection of celebrity excess and weaponized secrecy. The freak-offs weren't just parties. They might have been pressure points, and Brittany may have held one in her hand. Simon Monjack entered Brittany's life like a rom-com plot twist. Older, well-spoken, claiming connections to Vermeer paintings and billionaire investors. Friends saw red flags instantly. Lawsuits trailed him across continents, unpaid debts, forged checks, tales of terminal brain cancer cured by shark fin therapy.
Somebody what?
My daughter's passed out. They're doing mouth-to-mouth. Please get your friend,
Okay,
please.
okay. All right, we're going to. How old is your daughter?
She's 30. Please hurry.
She's 30?
Yet Brittany, battling career setbacks and studio gossip, clung to his promises of unconditional love. Within months, Simon isolated her from agents, stylists, even lifelong pals. When she fired her staff, Simon became manager, chef, bodyguard, and gatekeeper. After Brittany died, Simon staged tear-filled TV interviews, insisting she was a teetotaler felled by cough syrup. He blamed paparazzi stress, then mold spores, anything except foul play. His biggest tell: he blocked LAPD from retrieving Brittany's medical files, citing privacy. 5 months later, he collapsed in the same house from the same bizarre pneumonia-anemia combo. The coincidence screamed scripted, yet investigators found no bruises, no external toxins, just prescription bottles littering nightstands. Critics believe Simon orchestrated the perfect misdirection, keep Brittany medicated, control the narrative, delay any real forensic deep dive. The HBO doc What Happened, Brittany Murphy, paints him as both puppet master and possible victim. Maybe he knew too much, maybe he signed the same silence contract. Either way, his presence turned Brittany's home into a sealed bunker where truth suffocated long before she did. And his death erased the easiest path to answers, forcing detectives to chase ghosts instead of confessions.
Now the HBO documentary, What Happened, Brittany Murphy, alleges Monjack was a con artist and contributed to her death. Brittany's friend, actress Kathy Najimy, appears in the documentary.
During a little dip she was having, he came along. And I think that's where her judgment was muddled.
In every interview, Sharon Murphy called Brittany her best friend, yet her actions have puzzled observers for 15 years. She discovered Brittany collapsed, phoned 911, and publicly echoed Simon's shifting explanations. First prescription mishap, then toxic mold. When toxicologists debunked mold, she offered no alternative theory, simply urged fans to remember Brittany's smile. Whispers grew louder after TMZ published photos of Sharon and Simon shopping for jewelry just weeks after the funeral, leaning on each other like a couple in the morning, or something else. Rumors of their unusual closeness went nuclear when a leaked will allegedly left Brittany's entire estate to Sharon, with Simon as trustee. Once Simon died, Sharon sold the Rising Glen Road house within days, refusing mold inspectors and deep clean crews alike. She pocketed the proceeds, moved out of state, and faded from public view, granting only a single statement: Britt was sensitive, the world wasn't. Critics call it damage control. Supporters cite trauma. Yet her silence has consequences. By avoiding depositions, Sharon left gaps in the timeline only she can fill. Why refuse metal testing? Why accept pneumonia when Brittany said poison? And why not demand a federal review when new evidence surfaced?
And she became prey. We all were scared and freaked out. Like, who was this guy?
And there's this shocking claim.
Simon said that he dated Elle Macpherson and Madonna. He said that he had been dying from terminal brain cancer and that he had bought an experimental treatment derived from the fins of sharks. Every single word out of his...
Some investigators quietly suspect Sharon knew Brittany's fears were real, but chose safety over truth. Whether protector, enabler, or both, her decisions form the last opaque layer around the mystery. Until she speaks under oath, Brittany's story remains an unfinished puzzle, one only a mother can complete. Brittany Murphy once lit up every screen she touched. Today, her story flickers between tragedy and chilling intrigue. Two identical pneumonias, a husband wrapped in lies, a mother veiled in silence, and a music mogul now fighting for his own freedom. Each thread pulls tighter around a question no coroner could answer. Was Brittany simply unlucky, or was she systematically erased? As Ashton Kutcher's rumored evidence inches toward the courtroom and federal agents re-examine forgotten files, the mystery feels closer than ever to rupturing. Will Brittany finally get justice, or will Hollywood bury another secret?